This is another Falco Friday. Unfortunately, it's Saturday. We missed the window just by a little bit, but I had to, paint this background so it didn't look quite so ugly. And we had a few things to get in line, but I'm going to go over the difference between this current beta that we've just released and the last Falco Friday, what changes we've made, what features we've added, and update you and let you know, hey, if you want to upgrade, or is it worth just staying with what you have? All right, so the first thing we've done is we've heard, some people say they've had hot motors. Now, something to keep in mind is every tune doesn't work on every quad. As a general rule of thumb, if you're having hot motors, and hot motors really means they're too hot to touch. If they're just warm or hotter than normal, I wouldn't worry about it because, quite frankly, your quad's just doing its job. It's working hard, it's making it fly well. So a little warm motor's not a big deal. What I like to do is if I can't hold my hands on the motors, they're too hot. We had something in here, the Blackbird tune. It flies amazing, and a lot of people are using that. You need to remember not every tune is going to work with every quad, and not every tune is going to work like the way they are. If you tend to have hot motors, it's usually caused by one of three things. Either D is too high, either P is too high, or your filtering is just too high. And by too high, I mean it's actually not filtering enough. The numbers are too high, which makes it filter less. So one thing we did is we add the Blackbird tune, and he added tunes for this perfect quad that no one really has. The filter and cutoffs are very high. We've lowered that. The first thing we did is we've lowered the second cutoff from 150 to 100, which should fly much better on a majority of hardware without causing the motors to heat up too much. So if you do have hot motors and you want to use one of the other tunes, just lower those filter cutoffs slightly and you should have the problem go away. Or maybe reduce P a little bit, reduce D a little bit. I will tell you there's no difference in the flying on this one and the old ones, the original FlightOne stuff, except it should fly better. So if you're having some issues with this one, check your ESC protocols, check your ESC settings, check your tunes, check your everything. If all that's matching, if you should just have better flying with Falco without any negative side effects. The next things we've done is we've added addressable LED support. This was a feature that racers needed. They needed the ability to change the colors of their ESCs, or sorry, they needed the ability to change the colors of their LEDs when they're racing. We've added the support to do that. You can now have LEDs in the Falco, and you can change the colors and do some other things, and we're going to be tweaking this as time goes on. So you can go ahead and read the update to find more information on that, but essentially, you can now have LEDs in Falco. Another thing we've been noticing is people have been complaining about bounce back. Now I will tell you that might be related to the lack of filtering in general. Bounce back shouldn't be any worse in Falco than anything else. Maybe your stick deadband might be less, so your sticks could be causing more bounce back, so that's something to look for. But we've actually created something called Smooth Stop. Basically, it intelligently tries to figure out what will cause bounce back, and it will avoid it. It basically changes the stop curves and some other stuff to create a perfect stop every time. Go ahead and try that out. The higher it is, the more you might notice it. The lower it is, the less you'll notice the feel, but it should still always get rid of bounce back. If you want those perfect stops, maybe you raise it up. You're going to tell it's engaging because it's basically like some sort of auto braking that slows it down right towards the end of the stops. Okay, another thing related to bounce back that we've noticed is some people complaining about bounce back and even hot motors. We've noticed we actually had the idle lower than what it was in the earlier FlightOnes. Basically, the way FlightOne works is when you arm the quad, it slows down the motors, and then once you get in the air, it speeds them up slightly to make sure you don't have bounce back and other issues, because the motors will actually stall from all the air blowing on them if the idle's too low. We've now actually added this feature into Falco, so it'll boost your motor idle a little bit in the air, which you shouldn't notice because it's still spinning slow enough. It's not going to cause it to fall any slower or anything like that, but it should help fix bounce back and maybe some other issues related to that. You can now also change the idle in the GUI, and so if you need to, just raise that up. If you're seeing bounce back issues or other things, a higher idle may actually fix that. We've added the launch modes. We have the classic launch mode that holds the quad up and lets just sit there. So you just punch the throttle when you're ready to launch. And we've added the Sean launch mode, which essentially holds it up there, but you need to hold the stick to keep it there. Both of those should give you perfect launches on launch stands. I'll go ahead and try those out. They're aimed more at the racers. Freestyle guys don't usually need that high-speed launch, but that should be good to go as well. Some other things we've changed. We've added a PG3 rate preset, which is the rates my son uses. We've adjusted the tune he likes to use. We've reordered some tunes. We've renamed some tunes. Basically, we're trying to just hone in those defaults. We reordered the motor protocols, no big deal. We've renamed some of them, so the protocols are named like the following. If it's D-Shot 32, that means it's 32 kilohertz D-Shot. If it's D-Shot 1200, it's running more at 16 kilohertz. So in general, you always want to run 32, so we have the full performance. D-Shot 64 is basically we're doing D-Shot 2400, which allows us to go as fast as 64 kilohertz with the data being sent. Since we're not actually going above 32, it's sending 32, but it actually gets the data quicker because it's twice the pulses, so half the time to get the data there. You might notice a little bit of performance edge there, maybe some smoothness or other things. We've removed the decimal point from the milliamps drawn in the OSD, and the old smoothing defaults we've changed as well. So basically, we just removed the one that said old smoothing because it's not been working. We have the new filter smoothing in there, and those are the ones you want to use. We've done some bug fixes, basically, and some optimizations. We've given a little more performance. We fixed some issues with RC smoothing, being allowed to set an option that doesn't exist, and some other things. We fixed some issues with D-Shot and Koopa, maybe making the flight controller reset, just some few other bug fixes as well. All right, so if you have any other questions or have any features you want to suggest, there still is the poll going. We delete the options as we add them in there, so if you want a feature added, go ahead and make sure you add it to the poll in the Falco group. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. Like, subscribe, hit that bell as always, and I will update you hopefully next Friday on what's changed in between now and then.